قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, من معاصي البطن من معاصي البطن التي هي من الكبائر أكل الميتة وأكل لحم الخنزير. Amongst the sins of the stomach, which is a major sin, is eating dead meat and eating pig meat. والكلام فيها على أربعة أقسام. And the discussion here has four categories. أولها الأصل في حرمة ذلك. The first of them is the source of the prohibition of this. اعلم أن الأصل في تحريم ما تقدم هو قول الله تعالى. Know that the source of the prohibition of what has been presented is the saying of God, exalted is He. حرمت عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أهل لغير الله به والمنخنقة والموقوذة والمتردية والنطيحة وما أكل السبع إلا ما ذكيتم وما ذبح على النصب. That's the third ayah of Surah Al-Ma'idah. It means, forbidden for you is the dead meat and blood and pig meat and that over which other than God's name has been raised, and the suffocated, and the battered, and the fallen, and the punctured, or shanked if you want, and what was eaten by predators, except what you slaughter, meaning except anything that you caught it still alive, even if something like this happened to it, but still alive when you caught it, not in the throes of death even, it still has stable life, like even if the wolves were eating it, but it's still alive actually, stable life, then you slaughtered it, then it's lawful for you. وَمَا ذُبِحَ عَلَى النُّصُبِ. And also forbidden for you is anything slaughtered upon the pagan altars. وَقَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى. And also what God said, قُلْ لَا أَجِدُ فِي مَا أُوحِيَ إِلَيَّ محرما على طاعم يطعمه إلا أن يكون ميتة أو دما مسفوحا أو لحم خنزير فإنه رجس أو فسقا أهل لغير الله به. That's the 145th verse of Surah Al-An'am. It means, O Muhammad, say, I do not find in what was revealed to me anything forbidden for an eating one to eat, unless it were dead, or flowing blood, or pig meat. For indeed, that is filth. Or, if it were a major sin over which the name of God was raised. Or if it were a major sin over which the name of God was raised. Okay. So the first ayah, inshallah, is clear for you, and Sheikh's going to talk plenty for us. The second ayah is evidence for some of the scholars to talk about the halal meat differently from how Ash-Shafi'i did. Because this ayah is saying, O Muhammad, say, I do not find anything La ajidu fima uhiya ilayya. I do not find in what was revealed to me muharraman, forbidden, ala ta'imin yat'amuhu, for an eating one to eat, illa, except what? Except dead meat and flowing blood and pig meat and what was slaughtered in other than the name of God. So based on that, if you want to use Yani, I think you can see how some scholars could take this to go a different direction from something you're accustomed to. Yani, that's why, according to some scholars, you could slaughter a cat and eat it. You could slaughter almost anything and eat it, really. According to them, practically anything, you can slaughter it and eat it. So it's much more open than what Ash-Shafi'i said. فالميتة هي كل ما زالت حياته من البهائم بغير ذكاة شرعية. The dead meat is anything that lost its life, any animal that lost its life without a religiously recognized killing. فلا يحل أكلها. Then it would not be permissible to eat this animal إلا حيوانات البحر, except the sea animals. أحل الله ميتتها. Allah legalized their dead animals. He made their dead legal, the sea animals. That means any way it was killed. So what if you found half a fish, the other half is eaten, so you can eat it. حتى كلب البحر وخنزير البحر, even the sea dog and the sea pig. Sea dog here, I'm not sure what that refers to. Sea pig here, from my research, refers to the porpoise. You know the porpoise? Porpoise is like a small dolphin, has shorter snout. It's like a dolphin, a small dolphin with a short snout. وَالدَّمُ أَيِ الْمَسْفُوحِ. And as for the blood, it means the flowing blood. That's how we know how to explain the first ayah. حرمت عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير. Forbidden for you is the dead meat and the blood and the pig meat. Doesn't say flowing blood. So how we knew it means the flowing blood, because in the other ayah it says أو دما مسفوحا, or flowing blood. So the one that's open in the Quran is explained in accordance with the one that's qualified. That's a rule. وَهُوَ السَّائِل. This refers to the flowing blood. فَلَا يَحْرُمُ الدَّمُ الَّذِي فِي اللَّحْمِ. So not forbidden is the blood that is saturated in the meat. وَالْكَبِدْ وَالطِّحَالِ, and the liver and the spleen. When we say the blood that's saturated in the meat, there's some details there. So if you had some meat, and then let's say you rinsed it off, probably you would, and then you threw it in the pot and it cooked in there, and maybe some blood came out of there. So you don't have to worry about that. You can finish cooking this food and eat it. But if you had some meat, some cut up meat, and let's say you had it in a bag, and then you came back after a day or two, and there's like an accumulation of blood, you cannot consume that. That's haram. وَلَحْمُ الْخِنْزِيرِ, and the pig meat, haramun, it is forbidden. بَلِ الْخِنْزِيرُ كُلُّهُ, in fact, the entire pig. وَهُوَ نَجِسٌ, it is filth, living filth. وَإِنَّمَا خُصَّ اللَّحْمُ بِالذِّكْرِ لِأَنَّهُ مُعْظَمُ الْمَقْصُودِ. The only reason the meat was mentioned in the verse in particular is because that's mostly what's sought. But actually, it's every single thing about the pig without exception. وَمَا أُهِلَّ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ بِهِ. Interesting thing that they eat all of the pig, everything. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ تَعَالَى. They eat the intestines. That's what they call chitlins. If you ever smelled that. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. The first time I smelled chitlins, somebody making chitlins, I wonder how in the world, I wasn't even a Muslim, how in the world can someone eat something that smells like that? لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وَمَا أُهِلَّ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ بِهِ, and what other than the name of God was raised over it. أي رُفِعَ الصَّوْتُ بِهِ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ, meaning the voice was raised over it for other than God. أي سُمِّيَ عَلَيْهِ اسْمُ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ, meaning a name of other than God's name was pronounced over it. عند ذبحه, upon slaughtering it. كقولهم بسم اللات والعزى, like when they say in the name of Allat and Al-Uzza, those are two idols. عند ذبحه, when they sacrifice. فلحم الخنزير والدم والميتة حرام. And so pig meat and blood and dead meat are all forbidden. في كل شرائع, in all sacred laws. والمنخنقة, and the suffocated one. هي التي خنقوها حتى ماتت. That's the one that they strangled it until it died, or the like. Yani, you could put a pillow over it. It's you suffocating it or drown it. All that's the same judgment here. One kafir, he said to me, thinking that catching the animal and slitting the throat is something that's barbaric. He said, when I catch the animal, I smother it with a pillow. So he's like saying, I do it the better way. That's haram. It is invalid. أو إن أو إن خنقت أو إن خنقت بالشبكة أو إن خنقت بالشبكة أو غيرها, or يعني it choked on a screen It choked. It got caught in the gate or the screen and it choked. Meaning it wasn't strangled, but it did choke somehow. أو غيرها, or other than that, like it drowned. والموقوذة هي التي أثخنوها ضربا بعصا. And the battered one is that which يعني they killed it by walloping it with a stick. أو حجر أو حجر حتى مات حتى ماتت أو حجر حتى ماتت, or with a stone until it died. والمتردية, and the fallen, هي التي تردت من جبل, that's the one that fell from a mountain. أو في بئر, or it fell into a well, فماتت, and it died like that. وكذلك التي وقعت في البحر فغرقت, and likewise the one that fell into the sea or the ocean and then it drowned. So Sheikh put it here in the fallen. But we did learn that it goes with the munkhaniqa, suffocated. So maybe it goes in two categories. But considering that it fell, though, yeah, I mean, it's one thing to be strangled, suffocated, or even drowned, like if someone forced your head underwater until you died. That's one thing. But this one, al-mutaraddiya, is the fallen. That means it fell down from a high place in particular. So the Sheikh said, and also if it fell into the sea and drowned. So, yani, under this category implies then that he's saying fell from, for example, from the boat, fell down into the water. It might not be close to the water. وَالنَّطِيحَةِ, and the punctured, the stabbed. هِيَ الْمَنْطُوحَةِ, that's the shanked one. وَهِيَ الَّتِي نَطَحَتْهَا أُخْرَى, that's the one that another one gorged it. There's another word too. Impaled it. فَمَاتَتْ بِالنَّطْحِ, and then it died from being impaled. وَمَا أَكَلَ السَّبُعُ بَعْضَهُ, and what the predator ate, some of it. وَمَاتَ بِجُرْحِهِ, and then it died from its wounds. Subhanallah, because predator might rip his stomach open even if he gets away. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, or something like that, and then he's going to die. Eating that is haram, illa ma dhakaytum, except what you slaughtered. أي إلا ما أدركتم ذكاته قبل أن يضطرب اضطراب المذبوح, meaning anything that you caught it to sacrifice it before it started to shake from the throes of death. فالاستثناء يرجع إلى المنخنقة وما بعدها. So this exception of except what you caught it and sacrificed it, this exception starts from the suffocated one and then goes from there. So let's see. Here's the ayah. حرمت عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أهل لغير الله به والمنخنقة. So the exception starts here. The exception that's right here, illa, except. So it starts here. وَالْمُنْخَنِقَةِ, the strangled one, and the battered one, and the fallen one, and the impaled one, and what was eaten by the predators, except what you slaughtered, meaning you caught it still having stable life, starting from there, not before. فإنه إذا أدركها وبها حياة مستقرة, for indeed, had one caught up to the animal, having stable life, فذبحها, and then he slaughtered it, يعني من يحل ذبحه, someone whose slaughter is valid, that is, someone whose slaughter is valid, slaughtered it, حلت, it will be lawful. وما ذبح على النصب, and forbidden also, according to the ayah, is anything sacrificed upon the pagan altars. وَالنُّصُبُ بِضَمَّتَيْنِ حَجَرٌ, and this nusub in the ayah that has two dhammas, nusub, it's a stone. Yani, I translated it as pagan altars. The Sheikh says it's a stone. Nusiba, it is erected, stood up. Wa'ubida min dunillah, and it is itself worshipped. وَجَمْعُهُ ansab, and the plural of this is ansab. So they worship this. It amounts to being an idol itself, and they slaughter upon it because they want to spill the blood of the animal upon it in sacrifice. وَقِيلَ النُّصُبُ جَمَعٌ, and it was said that actually nusub is not a singular whose plural is ansab. Really, it's a plural. وَوَاحِدُهَا nisab, and its singular is nisab. الحجارة التي كانت للمشركين منصوبة حول البيت, that refers to the stones that the pagans had erected around the holy house, the Kaaba. يذبحون عليها, slaughtering sacrifices upon these. يعظمونها بذلك, and aggrandizing these particular stones by this sacrifice, by those stones being the like the table or the countertop for the sacrifice. وَيَتَقَرَّبُونَ إِلَيْهَا, and they seek to draw nearer to the idols by these sacrifices. فَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الذَّبَائِحِ كَذَلِكَ, so anything that's sacrificed like that, لَا يَجُوزُ أَكْلُهُ, it's not permissible to eat it, even if it's cut exactly the way the Muslims do it. وقد روى مسلم أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, and Muslim narrated that the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, لعن الله من ذبح لغير الله, God damn whoever sacrifices for other than God. Wallahu a'lam. I think we should stop here. If you don't have any disagreement. Any question? You're welcome, Barakallah. Sorry?
Yeah, may I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Concerning, you mentioned when you were discussing a particular matter right now, I even forgot which matter it was, but you mentioned that you're mentioning this for us so that talking about the saliva on the siwak, and I'm mentioning this to you so that you don't have the waswas and you're not troubled by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to know, is it you know that we are encouraged to just do away with the waswas, to ignore the devil. Is it a good advice if there was something that a person may not be sure about? Is this permissible or is not permissible? But if he knows for sure there's not an obligation, something he has to do, is it a good advice to tell the person, well, just if you just leave it out, you don't have to worry about it until maybe later when you can ask about it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Barakallahu feekum.
I mean, wafikum. I give people that advice, but it seems that it's not easy for them to take it. In so many cases, not something the person really needs to think about or dwell on. He could afford to push it away, but for Yani, he can't.
Would it be possible to repeat the question, please?
Okay, I'll
ask me to repeat the question.
Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead, please. Yeah, she's asking if you could repeat the question.
I was asking, is it a good advice to advise one that may be concerned about a judgment? Is this halal? Is this haram? And he doesn't know. And maybe I don't have the answer for them. And maybe you might tell them, is it a good advice to tell them, well, if you leave it out, you know there's not something that's an obligation for you to do. So if you leave it out, then maybe it won't even be in your head and you'll be okay with it.
So yeah, that's his question there. And I understand the question, inshallah, and I think that generally that is a good advice. And this is a reason.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you take that advice, you won't have a lot of questions, I think. And if you have a question, it's because you really, really had one. You really had a question, Yani, trying to conceive something. I could have many questions to ask the sheikhs if I wanted to. But so many times, let's just say to myself, if I just don't even do it or get involved in it, I won't have a question. So suffices me. بارك الله فيكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك